It is time for a best of 3 series where I don't have my music on. It is time for a best of 3 series of top level StarCraft 2. What I've got for you today is a Terran versus Zerg where we're starting off on the map Mothership. Now spawning right here in the top left, playing in blue, playing with Terran. We have none other than Clem. Down in the other, no, this is not the upper right, Loko. Spawning right here in the bottom right. There we go. Playing in red, playing with the Zerg. We're looking inside of the main base of Reynor. Now these two, they once more decided to play against one another. This particular series is from the Monday Night Weekly, so I believe it's about $400 on the line. But of course, these two, they have a very long and very storied history. It's nice to see, since Reynor is now also playing in a lot of the weekly cups again, that they are facing off against each other more regularly. Back in the days, they used to play against each other multiple times a week. They came up right around the same time, and I'm sure many of you recall this as well. Of course, they've since gone on and, well, became their own world champions of StarCraft 2, right? They both won all of the big events out there, and it's really nice that even for the smaller weeklies, we still get, well, top-of-the-line StarCraft 2 all the time. So, let's see. It's going to be a hedge gas pool right here for Reynor. In the meantime, it will be a Reaper start for Clem. Apparently skipping out on the SCV Scout, going straight into the command center right over here on the low ground instead. So there we go. It's going to be a barracks into a CC, single gas. So I'm expecting a factory in just a moment. We're likely not going to be going into a very delayed third command center. Usually you end up going for the very fast third command center with this particular opener as well. Curious to see though what flavor of a Reynor we're going to be getting here this time around. So the last few times that these two played against one another, Reynor decided to skip out on Banelings until the late game. And it's this weird new development. If you haven't seen it yet, it's a spicy take. But apparently the top level Zergs, I've been asking around for a little bit, apparently the top level Zergs all agree that against certain Terrans, like for example Clem, but also against players like for example Björn, getting Banelings in the mid game is not worth it anymore. Now, I can never quite tell if they're being serious or if they're a little bit more tongue-in-cheek, but there's no denying that they haven't been playing Banelings in the mid-game against especially those two Terrans out there. Nice micro here so far between the Zerglings and the Reaper. Instead, what Reynor has been going for is a quick infestation pit and about 2 to maybe 3 or so infestors, while stacking up to a very quick hive and then getting the Banelings as like a late-game unit instead. So only time will tell. It does work out really nicely when you do indeed end up getting the super nice fungal growth off, because fungal growth can be much more powerful than Banelings, especially in the mid game. And I guess it's because Clem is just so freaking good at micro, right? Like he will never really take big Baneling hits in the mid game anyways. Unless you get a ridiculous amount of creep spread up, then there's a chance, I guess, that you can get lucky. But across the board, yeah, you kind of still always rely on the opponent making a mistake. If you're watching this game from Reynor's point of view, you're kind of hoping that your Banelings connect. But it turns out some of these Terran players are just getting too bloody good. It's taken about a decade and a half. But apparently, even Banelings, even after getting buffed. Keep in mind, with the most recent batch, the recent balance patch in StarCraft 2, the Baneling got 5 additional HP back, which is massive. It's a huge improvement. Yet we don't really see the Zerg players enjoying it as much against Terran, it seems. Triple command center, 1-1-1 here for Clem. Hellion Banshee. Cloaking field coming up as well. Reynor opening up triple hatch of his own. Nothing all too strange. We'll have to see what timing he decides to go for the lair, and whether or not he will go double upgrades before that point, and whether or not he's going to put down a Baneling nest. But honestly, I don't think so. There's the lair. Normal timing for the Baneling nest is within about a half minute from now. The idea behind this is that you can get the centrifugal hooks upgrade, the Baneling speed research, right when the lair finishes. So far, I'm not seeing any structures anywhere. Second gas, I think it's going to be double Evo. So strange. Like, if I've made StarCraft 2 unit tier lists before, and if I recall correctly, I put Banelings in S tier. I genuinely consider them to be some of the very best units we have in StarCraft. Marines were also in S tier, though. There's a lot of Hellions, by the way. 8 of them in total. Soon to be 7 if the queens have any say right here in the matter. Oh. 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 Stop the press. We're going back to banelings? Maybe? I don't know. The timing of this baneling nest is a little bit strange, though. Did we just go lair for the overseers for now? Okay. Brenda's on the run. Maybe she can get revenge. Yeah, actually, you know what? That was perfect for Reynor. Not losing the queen, getting the kill as well on one of the banshees. Worker count so far is still unharmed for the most part. Hellions not really achieving all too much at all. I think this is about perfect here for Reynor. Second banshee is working away at the 4th hatch. There's the baneling speed. The good old centrifugal hooks. Here I am with my 5-minute monologue about banelings and infestors, and then he just goes for the most standard thing ever. I can imagine there's some folks that haven't watched any StarCraft in about a week, and they're like, yep, this is about normal. It's like, no, it wasn't normal last week, I promise. I'm telling you guys, they weren't getting this anymore. And I told them they were stupid because they should, but still. They're better at the game than me, so what do I know? All right. Anyways, double upgrades here for the Zerg as well. 5th hatchery, all the way in the upper right. Okay, so what is Terran up to in the meantime? Well, Clem's early game hasn't really gone according to plan, but he also hasn't taken a whole lot of damage himself, right? I mean, he did lose the Hellions, he did lose the Banshee, he did lose the Reaper, but his economy is still very strong, his upgrades are still very quick. We have 2-2 lined up as well. We have a second factory, which indicates that we'll probably see there it is, a 4th command center too. So all of this is very, very normal here for the French Terran. And despite the fact that he would have liked to deal more damage than he has done so far, I don't think he's going to be too upset about the current situation. Nasty siege tank position, of course, right here on Ruby Rock. Still, there's already so many lings waiting. Baneling speed is done. And while you don't really want to be rolling your banelings into siege tanks, this is a much easier cleanup than the alternative choice with infestors. Macro hatchery finishes up inside of the main base too. I'm expecting an infestation pit here for the Zerg. Alternative choice though would be to go full out Hydraling Bane in the mid game. Yeah, this is actually not a very fast hive anymore at all for Reynor. Interesting. Maybe that's what we're doing. Maybe we're just doing the never-ending mid-game style instead. Pretty uncommon, honestly, in the modern day and age. But yeah, the lack of an infestation pit here altogether feels like the polar opposite of what we saw a week ago. 2-2 has been fired up in the meantime for Clem, who really wants to get a kill on one of those bases. Didn't get the 4th base. It's not likely to be getting the 5th hatchery here for the Zerg either. Barracks 6, 7, and 8 right now inside of the main base. We'll probably see tech labs on those bad boys, and then, well, very likely a Ghost Academy shortly afterwards. 4th command center in the meantime moves on over towards the 9 o'clock position. Clem not really getting much done with his aggression, just kind of keeping the Zerg player honest, I suppose, but macro-wise, this is all going just fine. Reynor not really going for any Zergling run-by attempts or any Baneling roll-bys or anything along those lines. There is an infestation pit now, but it feels late. Normal timing for an infestation pit is several minutes earlier than this these days. So yeah, Reynor is basically saying, okay, come at me, bro. Just come at me. I will defend whatever you throw at me. I am not gonna bother counter-attacking. My plan is to win much later on into the game. I find this a dangerous proposition, especially against Clem. But let's see. Yet again, though, Terran is getting into this choke point. This time around, he's brought a bunch of Widow Mines to the party, too. Oh, Siege Tank does die. Queen's on the high ground. I mean, that's a lot of Marines, but I don't think you can just push through it. Fight in the meantime in the upper right as well. A couple of Banelings are needed here. Widow Mines. Okay, those are sweet. Still, the eco damage of the Zerg has been kept to a minimum. Let's see, though, if finally this can actually change the tide of the battle. Because even though Clem is getting good detonations across the board, oh, he decides to go for He wants to go to get the big fish over here, but that's a little dangerous. I guess the Spore Crawler died, so yeah, that means that the Banshee from the early game can continue fighting. Ooh, what about the Banes over here down south? I mean, it's going better now for Clem, it seems, with the aggression. Still not really achieving that much. Follow-up plan, though, for the Zerg is going to be Lurkers. This does feel like we are just one engagement away, though, from everything. Okay, there we see the hatchery falling to everything being an absolute disaster for Reynor. Reynor is up to 92 workers, though. Which is also, coincidentally, the best year to be born. Did you guys notice? 1992. Let's go, boys! Anyways, looks like the Banelings will indeed connect here in the end. And the fight down south will be pushed back for the time being. But the attack up north, significantly better for the Terran. Lurkers are coming. Seismic Spines as well on the production tab right now for Reynor. That's the Lurker ranged upgrade. Reynor has not gone across the map. Like, Reynor has not done any scouting. Other than, like, I guess the early game Overlord. But he has not even really seen the opponent's third base, fourth base, none of it. He doesn't care. This is giving Clem now a free path. Ooh, careful with all those units. It is giving him a free path to go into Ghosts. Now the Zergling run-by happens. Okay, fair enough. Banelings joining in as well. Hydras also do go through. We have a drop inside of the main base of the Zerg player as well. Push at the front lines is indeed going to be used now to go back home and push back those Zerg units. Nice attack, though, here from Reynor. Is he going to get cut off over here? I don't think so. No. Reynor's going to try and chase it down. These units are already overstimmed. Medivacs don't have a ton of energy. Reynor's thinking about just chasing it, well, all the way back to the natural. And now the Lurkers are joining in too. Where are the Ghosts? There are 8 of them. Okay, they're just outside of the natural expansion right now. We have another infestation pit. I guess the very first one ended up getting wrecked. Banshee from the early game still helping out. Lurkers over here are getting sniped, but Reynor is ready to try and pounce as there's a lot of low HP Terran units. You may as well test the waters. Widow Mines need to be careful. They don't really deal a ton of friendly fire. Third command center, though, unable to land back down at the mineral line. In the meantime, though, there is a 5th base all the way in the far bottom left. It's wide open. Very easy for Reynor to kill. Not even a planetary fortress. This is actually Clem's absolute lifeline. The fact that Clem managed to sneak this one out in the heat of the battle is really sweet for him. Cheeky little Widow Mine. I think it was the one that was burrowed over here. Yeah. Decided to walk on over in this direction. Fair enough. 3-3. Just about done for Clem. He stabilizes on this third base once more. Liberator in the upper right as a distraction. But what about his main army? Lurker trying to go in for the flank. Ghosts need to be picked up here, and I wonder if the Marines and the Marauders also should not find safe haven inside of those medevacs. Reinforcing Terran units right now are a necessity again. 3-3 is done at this point, though, and you can't tell. Lurkers, in the meanwhile, they have moved it over towards that, well, new attempt at the third base's mineral line, I guess? Ooh, some nice snipes and some good splits on the Marines. Looks like over here in the far bottom left, though, some SCVs did die. Run by as well from the Zerg in that same direction. Lurker in the middle of the map. By the way, in case you're wondering why there's so much action, both of these players perfectly capable of playing at 500 average actions per minute. That is why there's so much action happening all over the screen. Maybe a little bit of first-person view. This is what Clem is looking at whilst playing this game. Gives me a moment as well to drink some coffee. You know what? The mass APM doesn't look as spicy when they're just defending. When you see 3 fights... Oh, command center does get lifted. When you see 3 commands being... Or 3 fights, rather, being microed at the same time, it does get really scary. But look at how far away Terran's vision is now, right? If you look at the minimap, Clem is trying his best to control the map. But he's been pushed back to, like, his starting quadrant. If we compare that to what the Zerg player has, I mean, Reynor is not nearly as blind. It's not like his creep spread is as phenomenal as you would like to have it at this point as a Zerg player, right? I mean, especially the left side flank, the bottom flank, I guess, on the minimap. It feels like it's kind of empty, but it's a lot more frantic movement. Reynor is smelling blood in the water. He needs to be careful, though, that it does not overextend. Trying to micro the Banelings as well outside of the Widow Mines. Let me take control of the camera again, because I know some people absolutely hate the first-person view. Seems like actually a lot of people are very conflicted on the first-person view. Either it's the favorite, it's like the best thing ever, or people absolutely hate it. I think it's nice to mix in. But apparently, it can be a little bit nauseating. Widow Mines trying their absolute best. Nice splitties here by Clem across the board. The problem is, it's so much effort to be focusing on that small group of Marines and Marauders that suddenly the Lurkers, they pop out of nowhere. Suddenly there's Zerg everywhere. Push as well, though, from the Terran in the meantime. I can't believe Clem is actually finding the actions to be able to send in a counter-attack squad as well. 16 SCVs have died, though, and that Lurker is going to deny mining over here. I think this squad, it needs to be picked up. He saves at least the ghosts. Command center burns to the ground, though. And even though it was 5 drones falling on the side of the Zerg, Reynor still has 81 of those bad boys remaining. He's long retaken the base in the upper right. He's also got the expansion, well, just a little bit to the bottom left of it. Clem still has good production, though. He started to make the switch towards both Liberators as well as Ghosts. It really is a phenomenal late-game army, but Reynor seems to have an answer for everything so far. Medevacs, despite so many of them, all out of energy. There's 14 Medevacs, and none of them seem to have any energy to spare. That's crazy. That just tells you how fast this game has been progressing. Yeah, you guys are gonna have to kite it back again to the corner once more, and I'm a little afraid that not all of you are gonna be able to escape with this great concave of Hydras. Okay, some of the Terran units indeed did not make it out. The others are trying to make their way to the main base. Speaking of which, though, now the Zerglings have slipped through the cracks because the supply depot wall at the front line has been overwhelmed. Now the Hydras and Lings are moving through to the third base, and finally that orbital command will fall. Brilliant game here. Phenomenal game of StarCraft 2. I think, though, that this is Clem on his final legs. Even if he manages to push this away, the Hydras use their lunge ability to try and get back to safety. But even if he pushes this away, what is he gonna do from here? Reynor's economy is too big, his upgrades are too good, and you cannot stop the swarm. GG. That was ridiculously fast. I mean, I have full vision of the map, and I feel like I missed maybe 1 in 5 engagements. Keeping track of all of the amount of workers that you have, all of the macro mechanics for both players is insanely difficult. Just absolutely no moment to breathe. But what's fun is that they both usually win that way. They're both very momentum driven. They really like just constantly being out on the map and overwhelming the opponent with sheer amount of stuff. Right? Doesn't matter, right? If you're Terran here, Clem loves to do the multi-pronged drops and the constant overwhelming aggression, and likewise Reynor as well. But when you have 2 players that are considered to be the fastest in the game, like both Reynor and Clem are considered to be the number 1 and number 2 when it comes to raw speed, when you have them playing against each other, it is just fireworks. Okay, let's see. Reynor did it once. Can he do it a second time around? Because it really does feel like you're on just the edge the entire way through. Right? Like, I mean, the early game aggression, it was all managed really nicely, but the early game is also figured out really well. The mid-game chaos, I mean, the margin for error is ridiculously small. Not a lot of things needed to change there for that previous game to be a Clem victory. So let's see. Mothership is also a pretty spicy map. It's, of course, a 3-player map, or a 1v1 map, but it has 3 spawn locations. Reynor's first Overlord heading in the wrong direction. He's doing the right thing, though, by scouting clockwise. Always scout clockwise, guys. If you're not sure how to scout, not that it matters, but I'm pretty sure it's illegal to scout counterclockwise. Gasless opener for Reynor? No, not quite. Just a very small amount of gas for now. He's trying to get that third hatchery going. Maybe now he wishes he would decided to go for a gasless opener instead. Interestingly enough, by the way, that previous game was really standard. I want to say like 2024 Zerg versus Terran. Like, that was the meta that we had for quite a long time. Obviously, with a few changes here and there. But it kind of felt, especially from the Zerg's point of view, I don't think Terran has changed as much. But it kind of felt like from the Zerg's point of view that all of the modern iterations have been thrown out of the window. And we just decided to play good old, well, Zergling, Baneling, and then into a whole lot of aggression. Curious to see if he's gonna approach it similarly here again. Already though, I really like this here for Clem. Denying that third base over and over and over again. Because of the way that the map is designed, you rarely see Zergs taking this as their third base. Especially if the opponent is in the upper left. It just doesn't really make a whole lot of sense. You just end up in a situation where you're expending heavily in the direction of the Terran. And, you know, if Terran ends up taking their third over here, you're basically just half a screen away, it feels like, from the opponent's third base. Oh, a Reaper actually falls, trying to get the kill on the creep tumor. A little bit unfortunate for Clem, but we can forgive it. SCV is going to go back home again too. So this has forced Reynor's hand. Maybe Reynor was planning on playing a similar game again, but he's been forced to delay his third, and because of it, he's decided to go for a faster lair. In the meantime, on the other side of the map, we have mostly the same build here for Clem. It's again a single gas triple command center opener, but rather than a 1-1-1, so 1 barracks, 1 factory, 1 starport, we end up with 2 barracks and then a factory on the back of it, and eventually a starport. Overlord speed here for Reynor. That usually is something you get against Protoss at this phase in the game, if you want to drop him. So, do we go... Yeah, I guess we do go Zergling drops. It's not really going to be too many units. There's room inside of Otto over here for 8. Drop alert indeed coming up. We have 2 of them. Okay, 1 in the natural, then 1 out onto the map. Maybe Reynor wanted to play a civilized game again, but because of Terran blocking his expansion, we have thrown that out of the window. At this point, Reynor will know that he's indeed playing against a marine-based opener. There we go. First Zergling drops at least loaded up. I would imagine they're going to try and join forces. Oh, there's queens. Wait, what? Are we going to drop queens inside of the main base? Are we going to try and drop them at the front lines? That's kind of crazy. New queens are coming up. Reynor did make the third. He's only on 33 workers, though, so this is supposed to be a game-winning attack right here for Reynor. Zerglings are attempting to run by over at the third. He wants to get a wraparound on those Marines. The Marines do have Stimpack, though. Here come the queens and the Zerglings inside of the drop alert. Is this good enough for the Zerg? A lot of SCVs are dying, but keep in mind, this is off of the back of a lot of command centers, but here are the queens. Overlords are going to drop creep, so the transfusion spell on the queens can be used. Okay, there we go. We have a bunch of links as well. Going to town in the natural. This is a crazy push from Reynor. I think eventually Terran is going to be able to hold. Oh, okay. Ooh, the Overlord lives. The queens do get out. I mean, it's going to take a long time for them to make their way back home at this rate. So many SCVs have already died, though. And it's not even the end of it yet. A lot of those workers are low in HP. We have a Liberator joining in just to try and control the space. Creep Tumor in the meantime as well, within the natural expansion. That means, of course, that Clem is not going to be able to land the base. You cannot land Terran structures on creep. Lings once more slip through the cracks. Eventually, I think the queens will die. They will die for the brood. Oh, Brenda's still here. They will die for the brood, but so many SCVs are also paying the price. And while Clem is desperately trying to keep alive whatever he's got, as the dust settles, this is a major, major advantage for the Zerg. Reynor's gone back to a little bit of droning. Keep in mind, you cannot use the scan ability on an orbital command if it's flying. So Clem can scan. He doesn't have energy for the orbital command right here inside of the main base. He doesn't have energy over here at the third either. So he needs to land this orbital command, scan, get rid of the creep tumors, wait like a minute, and then he can finally take the base again. Ugh, this hurts. In the meantime, we have some links biting away at some of the SCVs over at the newly landed third base. Medevac drop is moving out right here for Clem. Fair enough. If we look at the resources lost, surprisingly even. It's the SCV losses, though, that are painful. But maybe these Marines can even the odds. Bailing speed is coming up yet again. We had another drop alert. Now we have 3 of those bad boys. Brenda, in the meantime, just using her new best friend. Maybe they're lovers, who knows? To spread a little bit of creep in the middle of nowhere. More SCVs, by the way, did end up dying, but I've got a feeling that this denial here on the main base's mineral line is a little bit annoying for Reynor. The thing is that bailing speed is going to be phenomenal. Bailing speed is just not something that Clem is prepared for here at all. Clem also feeling a little bit frantic. I would imagine he does not intend on making Reapers at this point in time. That is a misclick. Also doing the Beyond thing, where he gets the +1 armor first before getting the +1 infantry attacks. There's a secondary layer to this aggression coming up here for Reynor in just a moment, and it's going to be committed. I think we're going to see the Queens fly again. Where are the Dropper Lords? Oh, no, we're not going to try and drop Queens. Instead, we're going to drop Banelings. Okay. A little bit of carpet bombing by the Zerg. A long time ago, there was a meta in Protoss versus Zerg where Protoss did not really get any anti-air. And it was, for just a few weeks, quite common for Zerg to go like mass Dropper Lords and just drop all over in the middle of the fight, right? Drop all over the Protoss army. It was spicy. I kind of missed the meta. Either way, what about this? Clem is not used to this at all. Ooh, okay. We see that all the time, of course, from Terran players, right? With Widow Mines and all the rest of it. We see it as well from Protoss with High Templar. How frequently, though, do you need to pay attention to the mini-map? Because you're worried about a bunch of Banelings raining from the skies. I do love the Hellion position over here, but there are just so many Zerg units. Is there enough for the Terran to overwhelm this? I don't know. I don't think he has the numbers. It's again an efficient trade, I guess, for the Terran, but so many SCVs paid a price. In the meantime, we have a Zergling drop that arrived inside of the natural expansion too. It's gonna, at the bare minimum here, soften up a lot of those workers. That's an additional 16 of them going down. Clem is getting overwhelmed. Still at 38 workers, though. Still at triple mule production, so at least that's something. Reynor's economy is not that great. Trying to squeeze out a few drones at a time at most. +1 melee is going to be done in a moment. The fact that Clem does have 1-1 finish, though, really does make life better. If he didn't have 1-1 done, I fear for Clem's chances in the game. I still don't think it's ideal for him at all, though. But this is something that Terran can actually catch up in, right? Look at Brenda, by the way, man. Brenda has been working away at this little passion project for a while. This is what happens when you have too many actions that you can use to your advantage. Widow Mines here. This is a good attack, though, from Clem. He's going to try and go after the 4th hatchery. Medevac a little bit overly exposed. Widow Mine together with the Liberation Zone. Not too bad. Clem forced to activate Stimpack a bunch of times. Ooh. And while the hatchery lives for now, I'm a little bit afraid for when the Terran once more unloads. Circling counterattack, though, and this one is spicy. That's so many units dying. Looks like some attempted circling run-bys as well in the natural were good, but it's the real damage dealt right now over at the 3rd. That Widowmine gets a good shot. Liberator ultimately dies. Hatchery still lives. We have a backup hatchery down south. So much damage is being done. Wait, did we just have... Sorry, I just missed that one, I think. Did we just have this cheeky little Overlord rubbing a bit of salt in the wound while the dancing was happening in multiple places at once? I think this cheeky Overlord decided to just casually fly by. Insane. Insane. It doesn't happen often that Clem gets overwhelmed by the sheer amount of stuff that the opponent is able to throw out. He's got a nice attack still in him, but even killing this hatchery now is not that big of a deal. Nice retargeting there with the Banelings. He knew they were gonna die, so he figured I'll just throw them onto the Widow Mines instead. Oh, and that was a good, juicy detonation, and enough to let Clem leave the game. That was some high-level StarCraft 2. I will never get tired of Clem and Reynor playing against each other. There are just like, there's a bunch of matchups out there, right? That will always be interesting to me. And I feel like Clem versus Reynor, even if it happens multiple times a week, and it's been happening quite frequently lately, I'm going to check it out every single time because it is fireworks. This time around, it's Reynor winning. I feel like lately, it's usually been Clem who just seems to come out ever so slightly ahead, but this time around, Reynor gets the job done, and he does so in spectacular fashion. GG.